The Charlie Kirk situation has resurfaced with intensity following Joe Rogan's most recent podcast, and there's a key piece of information that the majority of individuals have entirely overlooked. Joe Rogan and Candace Owens have just presented new details that many feel the established press is disregarding, specifically Erica Kirk's emotional response right after the event. The narrative is becoming progressively more perplexing. Say one more thing rather explosively. 3 individuals informed me off the record. 2 people who have this in a written correspondence. I don't necessarily believe they comprehend what's occurring yet. There's a lot of bizarre happening with this. I know. First of all, there was that one man who is the diversion. All right, so you got this man who's an elderly man who begins shouting out, "Didn't he remove his pants?" He removed his pants. This man was at 9/11. He was at the Boston bombings. He phoned in a fake bomb at another location. The alarming thing is anyone who has challenged this account online is seeing their posts mysteriously vanish. The authorized account seems to have more inconsistencies than Swiss cheese. And if what Rogan and Candace are about to disclose is accurate, it could cause the public to reconsider the entire affair and wonder what is truly being concealed from view. I'm not here to instruct you on what to accept. I'm merely highlighting what's been hiding directly in our line of sight. On September 10th, 2025, conservative activist Charlie Kirk was delivering a live address at Utah Valley University when something unforeseen occurred. Authorities swiftly identified and apprehended a 22-year-old man named Tyler Robinson, declaring the matter resolved within hours. Seems straightforward, right? But in truth, the situation is far more intricate. Candace Owens just disclosed a piece of information that flipped the entire narrative upside down. She said Charlie had confided in a few close associates just the day prior that he felt apprehensive that something was about to transpire. And Joe Rogan, in his latest podcast, examines every detail from the supposed evidence seized at the location to the question of whether someone as young as Tyler could actually execute what the official report describes. In today's examination, you'll find major discrepancies that investigators appear to be overlooking, suspicious behaviors by those who were close to Charlie before the event, and why there are increasing murmurs in the press that the whole affair may not be as spontaneous as it's being portrayed. Watch closely because things are about to become even more heated. Before we delve into the comprehensive theories, let's begin with the fundamentals. If you're not acquainted with Charlie Kirk, here's a brief summary. The first images of this rifle with a scope, I swear to God it looks like he has a synthetic stock on it. Like it looks like a modern 30-06 rifle, so a 30-06. So that's the rifle. 30-06 is like that looks like a very modern looking stock. I mean, it might not be. It might be just a bad. He's a prominent conservative voice. One of the most influential figures in American politics. Tyler Robinson has been apprehended. But the significant question is what's truly happening here? Because this isn't just a random political event. It's a much deeper, more intricate tale and possibly much larger. Charlie Kirk is no ordinary name in politics. He has a broad influence, a massive following, and many powerful adversaries. People who have disagreed or clashed with him come from all backgrounds. And now the peculiar details surrounding what transpired that day are raising doubts. Even people who were close to Charlie are beginning to speak out. And what they have to say is astonishing. Prepare yourself because what's next could alter your perception of this entire situation. Candace Owens just made a startling disclosure in her latest podcast, a disclosure that by all accounts should have been front-page news. But as is typical, the mainstream media remained silent. Very day before Charlie Kirk died, he conveyed that he thought he was going to be killed. He told these people, "I think they're going to kill me." Okay? He had not conveyed that to me. That's why I'm telling you this based on the testimony of 3 people, and I am stating this because I hope that these people who I believe are good will be motivated to come forward with that. Now again, those conversations I had were off record. I honor that. If I say it's off record, it stays off record. But I'm hoping that watching what I am doing and feeling the momentum that is building across the world, people who want to know what the heck happened at 9/10, that you know they will be courageous and they will say, yeah, Charlie did day before he died think that he was going to be killed. And maybe tell us who is they for once and for all. Who is they? Who is the day that he thought was where we're going to kill? According to Candace Owens, 3 different people told her privately that Charlie seemed to know something was impending. He even warned them about it. And this wasn't just a gut feeling. According to Candace, Charlie had said plainly the day before that he believed someone was planning to harm him. Stop and consider that. The day before the event, he reportedly said, "I think they're coming for me." And what's even more startling is 2 of those 3 have text messages as proof. Let me interpret the subtext. Did Candace Owens hinted, saying it aloud, that President Trump is behind Charlie Kirk's? And, really process everything that transpired with Charlie and what it kind of signifies in terms of where we are. And I think it is a situation where we just know. We just know that he was truly betrayed in one of the most outrageous ways that I think I've ever witnessed. It has made me lose faith in politics. It has made me completely lose faith in Trump. A confession both personal and startling, opening a new chapter in a story the world was not yet prepared to confront. Charlie's own conversations tell the tale, and one of the people he spoke to was no stranger. He was allegedly a major donor to Turning Point USA, the organization Charlie founded and has been associated with for years. This wasn't some internet gossip or baseless story. These were people from his inner circle of trust. One controversial detail that quickly circulated: some sources claimed that the way Charlie Kirk had been attacked from the front and that the marks on his body didn't precisely match the initial reports. Candace said she confirmed this information through multiple sources and even kept it to herself for over a week before deciding to share it publicly. Candace stressed that she relied on first-hand testimony from 3 people involved, people she considered trustworthy. She expressed hope that they would be courageous enough to come forward and tell it all, not for the sake of the media frenzy, but for the sake of the truth. Music. While respecting their privacy, she almost pleaded with them to speak up, naming the names Charlie had worried about. Imagine that feeling when you hear a loved one say they feel like something is about to happen, and then it actually happens. The feeling, Candace said, is indescribably haunting. Then she paused, and in a grave voice she admitted, "This whole thing has made me lose faith in politics entirely. And honestly, it's made me lose faith in Trump himself." Candace explained that what pained her most was the fact that Charlie had dedicated his life to politics, to people who had turned their backs on him. She describes a world of power that is cold and impersonal, where people are replaced when they no longer fit into the larger plan. Candace's final words silenced the room. When power no longer needs you, they simply walk away as if you never existed. Candace then brought up something that stunned the room. She talked about how society only honors someone after a tragedy has occurred. The memorial days, the avenues named after the deceased, the public ceremonies, and the delayed tributes. She asked, "Why is this being repeated like a choreographed ceremony?" She even mentioned Charlie being honored abroad, which made her even more doubtful. The implication made the atmosphere in the room heavy. Everyone could feel the tension spreading. No matter which perspective you took, one thing was clear. Candace was no outsider. She knew Charlie, and speaking out about it meant risking her reputation. Then she turned to what many considered the biggest flaw in the official story. She said the young man disassembled the entire thing, concealed it in his backpack, and then somehow reassembled it right after leaving the roof. "Please, that doesn't make any sense," she continued. "Do you know how long it would take to do that even with professional skills? And you think that thing would fit in a normal backpack? It's impossible. This story is completely illogical. How did he get to the roof without anyone noticing, without anyone seeing anything, without security checks, without drones observing? It's unbelievable." She paused, looked around the room, a long silence. Then she said softly, "Sometimes the truth isn't where people show you. It's where they conceal it." And in that moment, everything went cold. When someone who was once so close started to connect the dots, everyone leaned forward even though they were skeptical, because clearly Candace didn't want to be silent. She wanted to see the light. And then she got to the part that had the room gasping, the forensic and technical details where the official story began to fall apart.
Candace said she had carefully studied all the published technical data.
According to the report, the person arrested was allegedly on the roof. Then he did something, then allegedly jumped from a height of about 14th reft. Candace asked, "Wait, do we have video of that?" Someone said someone recorded it on a phone. She asserted, "There's a video of him jumping." So whoever it was, he clearly left the roof by jumping. But was he really the one who did it, or was it part of a staged scenario to throw people off guard? She paused for a moment and then said, "I have a feeling it's a trap, a plan." Rogan chimed in, "Have you seen the video, or checked his mother's Facebook account?" Another person replied, "No." Rogan raised an eyebrow. "You should." Someone online noticed something peculiar. The posts, the photos, all about the same thing. Coffee. It all looked so normal. It wasn't normal at all. At that moment, the atmosphere froze. No one said anything, but everyone understood. This story still had many layers that were yet to be uncovered. Exactly. And what Candace discovered really disrupted the entire narrative that had been closing the case. She described that according to the forensic reports, there was a direct, non-penetrating impact mark along with a small piece of metal that was supposedly found near the neck, near the spine, and aligned with the shoulder blade. A seemingly small detail, but one that could completely change the way the case was perceived. Why is this important? Because such a direct trajectory creates a clear path. You can map where the object originated and where it stopped. The trajectory becomes a blueprint of the truth defining what could and could not have happened. And as a result, it either supports the official narrative or exposes deep contradictions within it. According to Candace, these contradictions are not minor. They are enough to call the entire official narrative into question. That detail reveals the direction of impact, she emphasized. And more than that, it raises the question, what kind of device was actually used in this incident? Rogan chimed in, "But wait, you have to have an official stance on everything, right?"
Candace replied, "No, you don't have to have an official stance."
The important thing is to know when you don't have enough information to make a conclusion. Another person chimed in, half laughing, half seriously. "I told you, I said I didn't believe it, and I still don't believe it. It's not something I'm willing to defend to the death, but something doesn't add up." And then came the detail that silenced the room. Candace revealed that investigators had never found a bullet that matched the type of weapon they released in the report. This was a crucial detail. According to the records, the suspect was believed to have used an antique shotgun that had belonged to his grandfather since World War I. But Candace said the metal fragment recovered did not match that type of weapon at all. Not in size, not in alloy, and not in mechanical properties. So, if the object did not come from the specific device they had released, the big question was what was actually used. And more importantly, who was really behind the action that day? No one in the room could answer, but everyone sensed this story was far from over. Think about it. The entire case against the 22-year-old is built on the premise that he used an antique rifle that belonged to his grandfather. But if the forensic results show that the fingerprints are completely mismatched, the entire official narrative begins to seriously falter. One insider says, "It's already happened. You can put your headphones on to hear it better." And then they emphasize again, "We don't know the whole story. We don't know if this person acted impulsively. We don't know." Rogan chimes in half sarcastic, half confused. But that's where it gets crazy. What if it was actually an accidental act, like a celebratory shot at an event? Then what? The person across from her interrupted, "Wait, you mean someone shot into the air to celebrate and cause this whole incident?" No one answered right away. The room fell silent. Candace then revealed, "I've had this information for over a week. I checked with multiple reliable sources and they all correspond. This isn't speculation or internet gossip. It's confirmed evidence." She paused, looked straight into the camera, and yet the major media outlets remained silent. Why? Because if this information were widely released, the entire official story would collapse. And they know it. The sentence rang out like a cold cut. Not a conclusion, but a warning that we've only seen the tip of the iceberg. Now let's bring Joe Rogan in because this is where things get interesting. Joe is known for asking the questions no one else is asking, and this time, he completely disbelieved the official explanation. On his show, Rogan pointed out a detail that almost no one mentioned. A mysterious witness who appeared at the scene shortly after the incident. According to the account, it was an elderly man who suddenly appeared in the crowd and caused a disturbance by shouting incomprehensible words. Some witnesses said he shouted, "I did it," while his actions were completely out of character, leaving everyone around him stunned and unsure how to react. The atmosphere was so chaotic that no one knew what was really going on. Joe suggests that this strange outburst may have distracted the crowd at the right moment, allowing the key details of the incident to be lost in the noise and confusion. And then Joe lowers his voice, saying something that silences the studio. But the strangest thing is this man is not a stranger. According to Rogan, the mysterious figure has been seen at many other major events in recent years, including events that changed America. Every place of conflict, every scene of chaos, he appears like a shadow in every tragedy. Joe concludes, when the same face appears in different scenes, that's no longer a coincidence. It's a signal that this story is much deeper. What are the chances that this is just a coincidence? Joe Rogan even joked that if this data were fed into an AI probability analysis tool, the results would probably approach 0. And then the strangest thing happened. Shortly after the most recent incident, the mystery man was suddenly arrested on completely unrelated charges related to another offense. As a result, no one could approach or interview him because he was now in the detention system. Joe emphasized that the timing was too convenient. He showed up, caused confusion, and then disappeared into the legal system where all questions were blocked. But Joe didn't stop there. Not even close. He went on to dissect the official story about the antique shotgun that was allegedly used in the incident. The 22-year-old suspect reportedly disassembled his grandfather's century-old gun, put it in a backpack, climbed a building, and reassembled it piece by piece before performing a long-range act with surprising precision. Joe's reaction, he laughed and said bluntly, "It's mechanically impossible." He explained that even for a trained professional, disassembling and reassembling such an ancient device would require time, tools, and meticulousness, and would certainly not fit in a backpack, as the report described. Joe further analyzed that the device's parts were too long, heavy, and delicate to be assembled in minutes, as the official story claimed. And finally, according to him, the report suggested that the suspect somehow left the roof, disappeared without anyone noticing, while the entire timeline matched perfectly. Joe Rogan concludes, if everything fits so perfectly, then maybe it was never completely true in the first place. Joe Rogan's assessment is blunt but convincing. Technically, the official story doesn't make sense. Joe has spent years working with experts in sporting weapons and military training. And in his experience, what the report describes is not just unrealistic, it's nearly impossible. He offers a graphic analogy. Imagine you put an ancient device in the woods, add a few loose details, and then have a stranger show up shouting nonsense to attract attention. The result is chaos, but it's not the truth that's being hidden. It's the truth buried under layers of misdirection. Joe calls it deliberate distortion, a form of carefully orchestrated obfuscation. Each piece of the story seems designed to confuse rather than enlighten the public. And that, Joe says, is exactly what's happening with Charlie Kirk. Every time someone tried to dig deeper, another strange detail would emerge. And as if someone were controlling the pulse of the information clock, a random man shouting out unbelievable confessions. A weapon that didn't match the forensic evidence. Security footage lost at a crucial moment. Small inconsistencies that add up to an inexplicable mass. All of it combined to create a confusing picture, like a puzzle designed to confuse the viewer. This was no longer a natural confusion, but a deliberate one, and that's what caught everyone's attention. The sense that the truth was being buried under noise and side stories. But here's the thing. Not everyone agrees with Candace Owens. Some think she's overstating. Others believe she's saying what others are afraid to say. And it is that division that has turned this debate into an unprecedented storm of opinions. Even Joe Rogan dismissed some of Candace's claims before the whole thing blew up. And honestly, that balance is important because if we're going to get closer to the truth, we need multiple perspectives. People who question each other instead of just believing one side. In a podcast debate, Joe bluntly challenged Candace to be careful about making strong claims without all the evidence. He said, "You don't have to have an opinion on everything. It's important to know when you don't have enough data to make a conclusion. It's a strong point, but it's fair and it's true. Because just because something looks suspicious doesn't mean we should jump to conclusions." Candace calmly responded, "I never said I knew for sure. I just said something was wrong." It was that moment that revealed the real conflict in the entire story between instinct and evidence. It was no longer just a political issue, but a deeper question. What is truth? When everyone sees it differently. Candace continued to insist, "I don't believe it." Joe immediately responded, "Why do you say you don't believe it? Why don't you wait until you really know?" Candace then clarified, "I'm not claiming to know everything. I just feel like something isn't right." Maybe saying, "I don't know" would be more accurate. I never claimed anything was true. I just shared a feeling that things didn't make sense. She later added that the exchange had become a memorable moment because they were both right. Joe is right that every claim needs to be backed up by hard evidence. But Candace is also right to emphasize that when contradictions pile up, it becomes hard to pretend that everything is okay. And it is in this intersection of skepticism and belief that the Charlie Kirk story continues to unfold, not just as an incident, but as a conversation about truth in turbulent times. We're stuck in a delicate area where it's clear something isn't right, but there's not enough concrete evidence to draw a firm conclusion. Candace relies on private sources, information she can't share, making verification nearly impossible. Meanwhile, Joe Rogan wants to see real data, hard evidence before anyone jumps to conclusions. And both perspectives are valid in their own ways. This is the important lesson. When an official report is riddled with contradictions, and when people close to the person at the center insist he felt unsafe right before the incident, the public has a right to ask questions. That's not rumor mongering. It's a demand for transparency, a demand for the full truth. And speaking of asking questions, look at how the media handled this story. If you think they did it fairly and compassionately, you might be surprised. A major news network, MSNBC, took the story to a new level. On live television, the host raised a controversial theory. Maybe, just maybe, this whole thing was an accident by one of Charlie's own supporters. In their words, an enthusiastic fan may have gone too far celebrating the campus event, leading to unintended consequences. The theory immediately sparked controversy, not just because of its sensitivity, but because it showed how the media was shifting from reporting to framing the story, a narrative that could distract the public from the most important questions. What really happened? And why don't we have clear answers? When Joe Rogan heard this, his reaction said it all. Complete disbelief. He called it a ridiculous argument, pointing out how odd it was that instead of focusing on the real investigation, the media would choose the most digressive explanation possible. Joe summed it up sharply. It's like they're willing to do anything as long as they don't face the real question. And rightly so. When you see a headline like that, who doesn't wonder what are they trying to hide? The MSNBC host even said, "We don't know. Maybe it was just someone shooting a celebratory shot like at a big gathering." Joe responded full of sarcasm. "What? It's Independence Day?" That doesn't make sense. His face said it all. Shock, disbelief, and disappointment. Joe points out that even after all this, some media outlets still try to blame conservatives, implying that Charlie's supporters were too careless. He says bluntly, "That's not journalism, that's distortion." And that shows the desperation involved in reshaping the narrative. Here's what we know. In short, Charlie Kirk told multiple people that he felt unsafe right before the incident. Several witnesses confirmed this and even wrote notes. Meanwhile, the official version asked the public to believe that a 22-year-old with no training disassembled an antique gun, stowed it in a backpack, climbed onto a roof, reassembled it perfectly, and made a precise shot from a distance. Joe Rogan, who has worked with many technical experts, sums it up succinctly. It's mechanically impossible. Candace Owens, who was close to Charlie, says the incident has made her lose faith in the entire political system. She believes there are things going on behind the scenes, and that some powerful people may want Charlie off the stage. Meanwhile, Joe Rogan believes the inconsistencies, bizarre stories, and constant distractions are all part of a pattern designed to keep the public confused until they stop looking for the truth. So what do you think? Was this really the work of a lone individual? Or is there a deeper story hidden beneath the noise? Do you believe, Candace, that Charlie may have sensed something was wrong? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share so more people can see what's really going on. See you in the next video.